And I just want to give a huge congratulations to the year's Olmsted Scholars, each of your wonderful achievements. I was a 2018 LAF Olmsted Graduate Scholar and also a 2020 to 2021 LAF Olmsted Fellow. And I'm honored to be invited to instill a bit of inspiration with this year's group of Olmsted Scholars. And while I have experiences to share, I am very much still growing in my own career, as I have made many shifts in different directions in the past decade, but the learning truly never ends, right? And I'm here to illustrate how exciting your next steps in your own career might be. So how did I discover landscape architecture? Like many of us might have, I actually started as an architecture major. I started my undergraduate studies at the University of California, Berkeley back in 2012. And I had always had a sort of deep connection to the land due to my maternal grandparents instilling that love within me here in California. But I was particularly inspired by my first visit to Buenos Aires, Argentina, when I was in high school. And this is actually the homeland of my maternal grandparents. And so I fell in love with that rich fabric that the city has and the buildings that we visited. And one of my mom's cousins who lives there is actually an architect. And so I wanted to do what she did to shape the built environment and the way that people would experience it and enjoy it. And to me, architecture seemed like the perfect career to mesh, those artistic and practical parts of work. But in my first year at Berkeley, I discovered landscape architecture. And so I was privileged in my first few years by happenstance to have all of landscape architecture professors assigned in my preliminary design courses. And these included Linda Jewell, Walter Hurd, and Chip Sullivan, who each really illustrated to me what landscape architecture entailed. And so to my surprise, it was not, in fact, only mowing the lawn or trimming the rose bushes, right? It was everything from residential design to parks to campuses to urban design and regional planning. And what happened was I fell in love with its ability to construct social justice, its capacity to create change for whole communities. And to me, the power of landscape architecture and our agency as landscape architects and designers is even stronger than architecture alone. And John Dixon Hunt really summed this up perfectly. Architecture is what a building does to you. So to an even larger extent is landscape architecture. Even if some of its elements have not been deliberately constructed, it still does something to you. And what you in return do to or for a landscape, as also for buildings, is also a part of that relationship. So not only was I coming to this understanding, but I also became aware during my undergraduate studies at Berkeley that Berkeley's campus was the home of the disability rights movement in the 1960s to 70s, in which, disabled folks fought for their rights to live independently, be equitably enrolled as students on campus, and also to achieve access to public space. And so this was a legacy that I realized I wanted very much to be a part of. And my budding relationship with my community would prove to play a large role in my work. So fast forward to my graduate studies, which I also pursued at Berkeley. I was nominated as an Olmsted Scholar in 2018, the year I graduated with my master's in landscape architecture there. And that year was monumental for me and my personal development as a designer. I had begun to learn American Sign Language and openly identify as deaf and with the broader disabled community for the first time in my life. And it had really begun to shape my work. And so this was huge for me, as I had spent the bulk of my childhood and young adulthood hiding this part of myself from the world. But I discovered Deaf Space, which is designed for the deaf and hard of hearing community. There were principles created by Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. And I realized that I could, in fact, use my own lived experience to design better landscapes and urban spaces for people like me. So I published my first article, Deafscape, Applying Deaf Space to Landscape, which was really that foundation of my research and my career in accessibility. And in the process of writing this article, I realized that there is nothing more powerful than fearlessly embracing yourself for who you are and playing to your personal strengths in your professional and scholarly endeavors. So after receiving my designation as an Olmsted Scholar, my dual identities as a deaf woman and designer would really go on to play a significant role in my career. And I started my first full-time position in landscape architecture with Olin in their Los Angeles office, where I worked for 3 years, and I learned so much about the profession. It was during this time that I was awarded the LAF Fellowship for Innovation and Leadership as an Olmsted Fellow, alongside Andrea Johnson, another Olmsted Fellow. and began to expand my work and accessibility with and for the disabled community. And so I created Design with Disabled People Now, a website of toolkits and resources to create more inclusive design processes for the disabled community, and furthermore, to design a more accessible public realm. So during that fellowship year, I learned about the importance of mentorship and collaborative work in a cohort, particularly during challenging times. So our cohort had to go virtual for our entire fellowship year during the height of the pandemic, which was a little challenging, but my time with my cohort was invaluable. Working with your peers and professionals or scholars of different ages is, in my own opinion, the best way to grow, to learn from each other and to figure out where your work needs to expand and contract. It was during this very fellowship that I realized I wanted to start specializing in accessibility. And so after the fellowship year with LAF, I joined MIG Inc. for about 2 years. Here I learned so much about the ADA and California Building Code, the technical aspects of accessibility compliance. So it was necessary and a rewarding step to learn more about legal factors that shape accessibility so much in our field, particularly in public projects. And it made me realize also that I needed and wanted to do work that combined both the technical with creative design even more, right? So it seemed to me that consulting would maybe be the best fit. And I've been doing this work ever since. But I've been invited to consult on projects for offices working on projects that directly affect the deaf community and the disabled community, to do many academic and professional guest lectures, webinars, workshops, conferences, and exhibitions, as well as writing, being featured in some other publications. And so each time has felt so rewarding, and this really stemmed from my fellowship with the LAF. It has illustrated to me how much my work is needed and how passionate I am to do it. In between these realizations, I was also given the opportunity to go to Rome. I was recently a Rome Prize Fellow at the American Academy in Rome between 2022 to 2023, and it was honestly the time of my life. I was able to expand my original Deafscape work and also Design with Disabled People Now through the lens of the Eternal City. So having this additional time to work on my passions after my time as an Olmsted Fellow helped me to realize that after 6 years of practicing in landscape architecture, I was ready to dive deeper into research that I had started, which is still lacking in our field, to go back to school for a doctoral degree. And so this year I'm entering my second year as a PhD student at UCLA in architecture and urban design, where my dissertation will be more formal and historical in nature, but always returning back to my own roots within the deaf and disabled communities. And so I hope through my dissertation to explore the exclusionary and ableist design history of American cities, with a focus on the work and legacy of Frederick Law Olmsted Sr., the namesake of our scholarships, right, during the 19th century. So there's so much going on during that period, and I will investigate, again, through a disability justice lens, and to sort of bridge the gap between academia and professional practice through my personal passion. And so in closing, today, I am where I am in my career, thanks in large part to the opportunities given me by LAF to discover what it was that I wanted to do with my life's work. I am forever grateful to have had the chance to take the time to manifest my thoughts, to talk about them, to have a powerful sounding board within my cohort, to be validated and branching off of landscape architecture into my own specialization, while still contributing to our profession in very meaningful ways. And so the beauty of landscape architecture is really its many, many branches. What I love so much about our profession is that there is no one way to practice it, to be a part of it. We each really have our own individual strengths, and we each shape its many directions, its diversity and its agency. And so I am really elated to see more and more folks with disabilities and diverse identities, many of us historically underrepresented in the design field, joining our profession and allied fields and, making our mark. And so we need more diversity in our profession now more than ever, as our communities grow in number and in stakes in our cities. Our experiences and our voices do matter. And so I want to call upon each of you here today to continue to let your passion shine through. Your identity is who you are, what you value, because really our profession is all the richer for it. And in this way, we will continue to shape how landscape architecture grows into the future. I know very well how much of an impact Olmsted scholars can have on our profession. So go forth and be unapologetically you and do your thing. So cheers to everyone on your accomplishments and congratulations. Thank you.